The Treasurer has also confirmed the government wants to help the growing number of low-income earners facing rental stress. A task force will be established to design a government bank to provide cheap loans to community housing associations. It will be modelled around a proposal put forward by the Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute in December. Carrie Hamilton is one of the authors of that proposal. She joins us now. Carrie, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew.
Is this more specifically looking at those who are renting? How would it work?
Thank you so much. Look, this is going to make what is already starting to happen much more efficient. There is a very robust and commercial non-profit housing industry in Australia that's already started to borrow money for affordable rental housing projects, but this will make it much more efficient and will allow them to access money from superannuation trusts.
How would it make it more efficient? Essentially, this would be accessing the bond market.
Exactly.
To give them the money supply. So it wouldn't be going directly then to the renters.
That's right. There's nothing more creditworthy than families who are renting in affordable housing. And at the moment, the nonprofits who provide this housing individually negotiate loans with the commercial banks who've supported this sector to date. What we want to do, however, is extend this and normalise lending to affordable housing.
And of course, that problem with that is that they are subject to higher interest rates than normal and shorter terms.
That's the most important thing, Andrew. The terms at the moment are very short. That's the cash matching that the banks are restricted by. But this is some of the safest lending, and it's backed by government support of these families. So what we need to do is make this available to up to 30-year loans to back these affordable housing rental properties.
What have you based this model on? Have you looked at overseas models?
Yes, this is one of those overnight successes that has over 10 years of research in behind. Led by head researcher Julie Lawson of the Australian Housing Research Institute, we looked at all the international models that based government co-investment in housing on robust private investment support like superannuation and pension funds. We picked the one that's most applicable to the Australian condition, and Treasurer Morrison had just met with the CEO of that Housing Finance Corporation in the UK that we selected. He just met with him in January.
When you say accessing superannuation, that is also controversial. That has been talked of before, certainly at a federal level. What feedback are you getting? How credible would that proposal be? Certainly, you're talking about first home buyers being able to access their super at an early age.
Well, there's that, indeed, but there's also the superannuation investment, yours and my superannuation, that actually needs to be invested at positive returns for us. So this is actually not so much individuals borrowing from their own superannuation, but sophisticated nonprofits who develop affordable housing being able to borrow at scale from the superannuation trusts, pay that back fully at a reasonable margin of interest that's commensurate with the risk they take at longer terms. That makes it safe and supportable for these nonprofits to not live under the churn of the risk that they have at the moment with their lending.
As far as that proposal goes for accessing super for individuals, do you think that has merit?
Well, I think it could, but it's more important that it's safe and that it's there. We don't want to expose individual superannuation to property risk and fluctuations of the market, certainly. So it'd have to be done safely.
The other contentious issue in this argument is look at capital gains tax, and perhaps that there are too many concessions there. Do you have a view on that?
Look, the important thing is that this is such an intersecting sector. The taxation, both capital gains and especially negative gearing, may have unintended consequences that have skewed our rental markets, our home ownership markets, have made our use of our Australian housing supply perhaps less efficient. The important thing with all the tax concessions is to remember how interrelated the housing market is, from the continuum of home buyers all the way through to first home buyers that need assistance, to people struggling in the private rental market, social housing and the homeless. It's all interrelated.
And if you look to that issue where a lot of people will say you're putting money into rent, it's dead money, it's not generating anything. There are schemes available where you rent to buy. Is that another initiative you're looking at?
Yes, that's growing as well, and that's another initiative that I believe the Treasurer found out about when he travelled to the UK, and that has been written extensively about by the Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute. Look, again, it's all interrelated. What we've found is that the ABS statistics will tell you renters are a growing part of our community. It's always been a third, and it's now much more than a third and growing. So private rental is a dignified housing market, and affordable private rental is what we need to normalise for institutional investment.
But of course the argument here is that Australia has favoured owner-occupiers and landlords rather than the renters.
Indeed, but if 37% of our community isn't being favoured, that's maybe a bit, something that we need to look at. So this initiative by the Treasurer is very welcome, and I really applaud the diligence of his Treasury colleagues who've looked into our research so carefully.
Well, there's much more to talk about. Carrie Hamilton, thanks for helping starting that conversation.
Thank you, Andrew.